Yo, what's going on, man? Today is October the 18th, 2023. It's your boy Chris, and this is another edition of the NBA team previews for the 2023-2024 NBA season. Do me a favor as you guys join. Go ahead and hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the show if you guys haven't already. Turn the notification bell on if you're listening on YouTube as well. And let's jump right into it, man. I've done previews for pretty much every team now. I know we probably got like 10 teams left, but a lot of teams that we've talked about already, we've covered. So we're, pretty much at the bottom of the league. We're looking at the teams that we might be able to find some value with, especially betting on player props for sure. But a lot of these teams that we're going to be talking about in the next few days are the teams that finished with the worst records in the NBA last year, teams that missed the playoffs. But still going to be value. We're always trying to look to extract value from some of these players and some of these teams as well. First team up that we have for today is the Washington Wizards in the Eastern Conference. After we discuss the Washington Wizards, we'll talk a little bit about the Utah Jazz, and then I'll open it up, see if anybody got any comments. Shout out to my guy Prolific, always here with me, rocking with me over on YouTube. He says, checking in, Chris, for the daily knowledge from the guru. Smash the like button. I appreciate that comment from Prolific. So let's do it, man. Let's jump right into it. So Washington Wizards, we're looking at the Wizards this year. This team is not projected to do well at all. To reach the playoffs, you can get the Wizards at a plus 1,300, 13 to 1. Right off not 13 to 1, but 1.3 to 1, we'll say. For them to even make the playoffs, they don't have great odds to win the Southeast Division as well. 15,000 to win the division. They're in the division with the Hawks, the Hornets, the Heat, and the Magic. So I don't expect this team to do well to win the division. To win the East, they're plus 50,000, and to win the title, they're plus 100,000, which is absolutely insane. I don't think I've seen odds that high in a long time. But one of the reasons is because their win total, which we'll talk about in a tad bit, is one of the lowest win totals on the board at just 23.5. So looking at this team, the Wizards, they shook it up a lot over the course of last season. Bill missed 32 games last season. Of course, he ended up being traded. Kyle Kuzma kind of assumed that a larger role without Bill being there for majority of the games. And then we saw Porzingis really kind of solidify himself and kind of, put some of the doubt to rest as he was the best player on the floor consistently for this team. They also traded Rui Hachimura for a bag of potato chips, 25-cent bag of potato chips. I don't even think you can get a bag of potato chips for 25 cents. We'll say a 50-cent bag of potato chips. They got nothing back in that trade. And this Washington Wizards team is really they failed talent in my estimation. Danny Avdia, Corey Kispert, Johnny Davis. None of those players have taken leaps to actually improve the overall strength of this team, in my estimation. So the good news for the Washington Wizards is that they did go out and kind of change management around. You bring in the former Clipper team president and Michael Winger. You also bring in Will Dawkins, who was the former OKC GM. And as soon as they got in there, they got Bill up out of there. They traded Bill and Porzingis. They bring in Tyus Jones. They bring in Jordan Poole. You give a contract extension to Kyle Kuzma. And then also just going back to the additions outside of Jordan Poole, who I think absolutely is going to thrive in this role. He got a ball in his hands a lot more. He'll be able to play make. Pretty much can shoot the ball whenever he wants to. Ultra green light. And it's going to be a resurgence for his career. Jordan Poole is still extremely, extremely young. Probably felt like he was kind of done dirty, although he didn't perform last year in the playoffs. We know what happened between him and Draymond Green as far as the punch that happened at training camp before the season even started last year kind of hampered. You can look at that as kind of hampering, the last year of him being there. So Jordan Poole comes over. I'm pretty high on Jordan Poole. Tyus Jones actually comes over as well in the trade. Probably one of the more underrated trades, I would say, throughout the offseason. Because Tyus Jones is a guy that kind of flies under the radar, but we know what his production is like when he was playing in games without Ja Morant last year. Assist number goes up through the roof. Usage. He takes good care of the basketball. Gets other teammates involved as well, and he can shoot. He can shoot the ball. He can get to the rim. So solid pickup there at the point guard position. And they haven't really had a point guard, in my estimation. They haven't really had a really good point guard in quite a while. a point guard of Tyus Jones' caliber. I'm extremely excited to see what he can do in a starting role here. So Tyus Jones is there. Bilal, I can't pronounce his last name. I'm not going to butcher it. But the Bilal kid, actually Victor Wembanyama teammate last season. He's an athletic. I watched him play in the preseason. He's a very athletic, high energy two-way player that I think is going to help this team immensely. Specifically on the defensive end. His offense probably will come, but he's a slasher. He'll definitely be able to get to the rim, I think, and finish. He has to get a little stronger, of course, and hopefully Washington does a better job of kind of his development. And then last but not least, they do bring over Landry Shamet, who was, of course, in Phoenix last year as well. That was a part of the Chris Paul deal that sent Chris Paul to Washington before he ended up getting traded again and going to Golden State. I talked about the subtractions already. Of course, you don't have Bradley Beal there. Of course, you don't have Porzingis. And Monte Morris is the other guy that doesn't really move the needle as much. Last season, 35-47 was this team. They finished 12th in the Eastern Conference, tied with the Indiana Pacers. I think the Pacers are a much better team than the Washington Wizards this season. But Washington is still going to be – I think that they're going to be 20 – so let's just jump straight to the win total. The books are expecting a major decline here in a rebuilding year for Washington after losing Bradley Beal and Porzingis, although they did get, Jordan Poole back and Tyus Jones. So they did get some nice additions. Now, Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole have the ultra green light. They're going to take all the shots. You still got Daniel Gafford down there, boxing out, getting rebounds. I think Taj Gibson is still on this team as well. But the win total is 23.5. To me, that number just seems extremely, extremely low. And I know a lot of these teams that finished at the bottom of the Eastern Conference last year, in my estimation, they did get a little bit better. I do think that, we see some steps taken forward from some of these teams that finished at the bottom of the Eastern Conference last year. And when I'm talking about the teams that finished at the bottom of the Eastern Conference that I do expect to be a little bit better this year, I talked about Detroit. Detroit only won 17 games last year. They finished 17-65, but they've gotten Cade back. And word is, Cade has looked really, really good. I heard he's been busting butt at practice, and has made a full recovery. So I do expect them, especially with Monty Williams being at the helm of that team now, to win a few more games. Same thing with Charlotte. I haven't previewed Charlotte yet, but Charlotte is a team that I'm actually a little high on as well. So I won't give it away yet. But Charlotte, Orlando, I think those teams all are a little bit better. Maybe, barring some setback or some injury, I think to me, 23.5 is just an extremely, extremely low number. To put that in perspective, there was only 3 teams last year that finished under 24 games won last year. And that was the Houston Rockets, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Detroit Pistons. So the books are extremely low. I don't think I could be that low. I think this team's going to be super hungry. And to me, they kind of remind me a lot of a collection of misfits that's all been kind of put together. When I think about Poole being traded, felt like the Golden State Warriors didn't want him anymore. Kuzma's rise to stardom after being traded from the Lakers, of course, feeling like he was rejected from the West Coast. Both of those guys feeling like they were rejected from the West Coast. And then you get Tyus Jones being shipped from Memphis, and now he gets a chance to actually start. 23.5 wins feels too low for a team that I think will be in the fight. I don't know if they win games, but I do think that they're competitive, and maybe they just end up covering spreads. Offensively, I think they'll be able to score. Specifically in the first half. This was a team last year that scored a lot of points in the first half. And when you see a win total as low as 23.5, that does mean that that team's not going to be projected to score a lot of points. That's how you win the game, is being able to score. I do think that they catch a team, some teams off guard, especially if they can get any kind of production from their bench. Corey Kispert, guys like Corey Kispert, guys like Davis Bertans, Danny Avdia. These guys will need to step up. You got Danilo Gallinari, who's returning from the injury and didn't play one game last year. He came over in the trade from Boston that sent Porzingis to Boston. DeLon Wright, these are the guys. Johnny Davis, these are the guys that they need to step up. They also have one of the easiest schedules. They have the 10th. They don't have one of the easiest schedules. They actually have the 10th most difficult schedule. So they won't be in a lot of good travel spots, but they're a young team. Like Kyle Kuzma. I know he's probably considered a vet on this team, but I think that this team there's going to be fun ways to kind of back this team. I know I was talking to my guy Dream, and we were talking about Tyus Jones assists. I think that's going to be a number that we can absolutely take advantage of, especially early in the season, just because the books won't have it. They won't have it properly set. I don't think. I think it'll be a tad bit too low. If we see it at 5.5, 4.5, I do think that's a number that we take the over on out of the gate for this team. Looking at Washington, let's see how this schedule starts real quick, and then we'll move on to the Utah Jazz. If anybody got thoughts, though, let me know what you guys are thinking about this Washington Wizards team. I think it's going to be a fun team. I'm definitely going, be in DC a couple times to go check these guys out. Was actually looking at the game against Memphis, but it's a little. I want to see Ja if I go to that game, so I probably won't be there for that. But was looking at that one. So as far as the schedule, going back to the schedule for this team, let's see. They actually start the season off in Indiana. I think that could potentially be a really high-scoring game. Then they go to Memphis. I'm sorry. They go to Indiana. Then they get Memphis at home. That was the game I was talking about actually next Saturday. Then you get Boston. You got to go to Atlanta, start a massive road trip. They go to Atlanta, go to Miami, go to Philly, go to Charlotte. So that'll be a lot of games. And those are really difficult opponents, but I do feel like I said, it'd probably be a team that I'm going to take some first half overs on. And I do think that, they probably end up slowing down the pace. I think they're going to play really, really fast, try to get out and run so that they don't have to set up their offense in transition, so that they don't have to set up their half-court offense. So those are my thoughts, man, on the Washington Wizards. It's not a team I really want to take an under on 23.5. Like I said, the number is a tad bit too low. But it does feel like they're kind of being pushed in the right direction now that management has kind of changed. So those are my thoughts, man. Aaron says, think they should be a decent team for overs, pool, Tyus, play fast, and they should be weak defensively. Those are kind of my thoughts. I gave out this number at the beginning of what show was it? Probably a week or two ago. But if you look at the over under numbers for the Wizards last year, and granted, like don't hold it to we can't go just based off numbers from last year, because of course you don't have Bradley Beal, you don't have Porzingis, you don't have those guys. But Washington actually was the team that actually had the best record for first quarter over under numbers last year. They finished 53, 28, and 1 in the 82 games that they played last season, which was actually 6 wins more than the San Antonio Spurs, who had 47 wins in the first quarter. So if you're looking at a way to kind of attack this Washington Wizards team, those numbers will be really, really low in the first quarter, and that will be a play-on spot that I'll be looking at, especially early in the game as teams kind of get adjusted to playing against this Washington Wizards team. It's not just the Wizards having to adjust to other teams and play together, but it's also other teams having to, kind of figure out how they're going to slow this team down. So, Wizards 53, 28, and 1 to the over in the first quarter last year. And I want to say that number was also consistent with what they were in the first half. Let me see if I can find that number real quick for you guys, and then we'll kind of keep it moving. Did I put that one in my notes? I did not put that one in my notes. So we'll keep going. But, interesting nugget right there. I'm glad you mentioned that, Aaron, so I can get it out. He also says Gafford and Taj Gibson as rim protection is rough. No, I absolutely agree. Daniel Gafford is as athletic as he is. He can't guard anybody. And he's kind of small. He's got to get a lot stronger in my estimation. Taj Gibson he's a super vet at this point in time in his career. So he'll probably have some productive nights, but I'm not looking for a lot of them. Not enough to have a meaningful impact at all. So I didn't see anybody request, so we're just going to keep it moving, man. There's 15 minutes about the Wizards, actually probably too long about the Washington Wizards, but it was a team that I really did my homework on and wanted to share my insight with you guys on. So, like I said, if you guys joined late, hit the like button for me, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on so you know when I go live. And let's transition to the Western Conference team that we're going to talk about. And that Western Conference team is the Utah Jazz. You see the odds at the bottom. You actually can get them right now as a plus 425 to make the playoffs. I don't have a ticket in on that. And just for clarification, I didn't take anything on the Washington Wizards either. I do think it's a team that, like I said, I'll be looking to target them in the first quarter, first half. As far as overs, I don't think that they're going to be a great defensive team at all, specifically on the road as well. This was the team last year that really struggled. The Washington Wizards did on the road. I forgot what that number was, but I know that they didn't win a lot of games last year on the road. Matter of fact, I want to give you guys that number really quickly. The Washington Wizards were just 16-25 on the road, whereas at home they were 19-22 last year. So fading them on the road, of course, but also looking for their totals to go, just thinking that they can score in those games. So now let's transition to the Utah Jazz, another team that the books don't really have high expectations for. To reach the playoffs, they're plus 425. So you can get 4-1, right off the gate with this team to win the Northwest, which I highly anticipate that they won't be good enough to win the Northwest. They're in there with the Nuggets, the Wolves, the Thunder, and the Blazers. They probably finish lower than all of those teams, of course, except the Blazers. The Blazers will finish last in the division, barring any kind of trade or any kind of big injury to some of those other teams. But the Nuggets, Wolves, and the Thunder will be an interesting race for first, second, and third to see how that kind of pans out. So at plus 6,000, absolutely not. To win the West, not putting the ticket in there, but just wanted to provide you guys the odds. They're plus 25,000. Then to win the title, this team is actually a plus 50,000 as well. So Utah Jazz aren't expected to make a lot of noise, but they weren't expected to make a lot of noise last season either. If we remember, just kind of jumping into this last season recap, this team actually remained super competitive because they thought which actually took them out of the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, because they thought they were going to try to tank and get Victor Wembanyama after trading away, Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers and shipped away Rudy Gobert. And they got so much in return for those guys. But they still remain competitive. Lauri Markkanen, we saw him deliver a career and all-star season for himself. He was the focal point of the offense, scoring jumped 10 points per game since he was in Cleveland in the 2021-2022 season. When he averaged just 15 points per game, he went up to almost 26, 25 and a half points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, and he was named most improved player of the year. So we saw Lauri Markkanen play really well. Jordan Clarkson actually averaged a career best, 21 points per game, and a career high 4.5 assists per game as well. And even though Colin Sexton, battled a lot of injuries, he was actually managed to average 14 points per game. We saw THT, even a hefty THC. THC had put on a lot of weight, and I was down on him last year, but he actually played really, really well for that team. And Walker Kessler, be remiss to not mention what Walker Kessler did, averaged 2.3 blocks per game last season, which was actually fourth in the league, and made the rookie first team as well. Then you got guys like Abaje off the bench. He averaged 15 points in the last 15 to 20 games of the season last year when he got an opportunity to kind of shine. So in the offseason, they re-signed Clarkson, of course. You trade and get John Collins, who I think is going to be good for this locker room. He's a veteran presence. Omer Yurtseven doesn't really move the needle for me as much. You draft Taylor Hendricks in the draft. You also draft Keontae George, who I do want to pause and kind of talk a little bit about him, because I think that the Utah Jazz actually feel like he could potentially end up being a starting point guard for this team. He's raw, of course. He's only 19, 6'4" point guard from Baylor. He reminds me a lot of, he's kind of built like DeJounte Murray, body frame wise. I mean, long, athletic, really long arms. Look like he can probably touch his toes just by putting his arms down. And he actually got a jumper on him. Like, I was watching him play in the summer league, and he could really shoot the ball. Really confident in his jumper. Been watching him play during the preseason. He's getting up a lot of shots. He's definitely a scorer, but he also can get other guys involved as well. I think he has 3 games already of 10 points and 5 assists in limited minutes. Like, he's not playing no more than 20 minutes, but he's seems to me to be like a pretty confident guy, at least really confident in his game. So I'm interested to watch him play. I'm very interested in watching Keontae George play. I think they got a steal in the draft in the first round by taking him. They don't really lose anybody. This Utah Jazz team doesn't really lose anybody. Not a lot of subtractions. And then as far as offseason stuff, I talked about some of the moves that they made, but they also re-signed Jordan Clarkson, gave him 3 years, $55 million, and drafted. They drafted really, really well. Last year, this team finished just 37-45. I wouldn't say just 37-45 because that actually exceeded my expectation. The Utah Jazz started the season taking everybody money because people were betting against them and they were just winning outright. They did finish 37-45 though, which was the 12th best record in the Western Conference. They went just 2-8 down the stretch, which solidified that they wouldn't make the playoffs or make the play-in while they actually had a chance. And you just kind of didn't know which direction they wanted to go into because the team was playing, really, really tough and playing like they wanted to win. But then at other times, you kind of see it looks like, the front office were resting guys at time. And at times, they didn't really seem kind of correlated with them actually trying to get the play in. Because if you guys remember, it was them and the Oklahoma City Thunder that were like neck and neck. And they had played each other 3 times in the last, I want to say like 10 games to kind of, figure out who was going to take that spot. And both of them were kind of resting guys. SGA wasn't playing because of the hand injury. I vividly remember this stuff. So Utah, I think they will be a sleeper team at home. 23-18 is what they finished at home. On the road, absolute fade. 14-27 on the road. So, well over 500, well under 400 on the road. So projected win total this year, I wanted to get there on the over, but I thought I could be able to get a little bit of better number. 35.5. So the books aren't expecting a lot of regression. Like I said, last year they won 37 games. And right now, if you're talking about the Utah Jazz, you got to figure out whether you think that they're going to be better or a tad bit worse than last year. To me, this team kind of feels like a baby Oklahoma City Thunder team in the sense that they've gotten so many picks. They got so many picks coming back in the draft when you're thinking about what you got in return for Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They absolutely, they pulled a fast one on the Minnesota Timberwolves by requesting as much as they got. And for Rudy Gobert, and then you bring in Walker Kessler, who essentially does the same exact thing that Rudy Gobert does. So while 36 wins in the East feels like a lot because the conference is stacked, right? We always talk about it's not a lot of wiggle room in the Western Conference, and I think it legitimately is going to come down to how healthy these teams can stay, especially when you're thinking about the upper echelon teams of the Western Conference, is that tier 1, tier 2. Kind of dynamic of teams, the Denver Nuggets, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Phoenix Suns, the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm also high on Oklahoma City Thunder this year, of course. The Pelicans with Zion being back. I've talked about this before, and I haven't talked much about the Minnesota Timberwolves. I didn't mention the Clippers, but if they can stay healthy, the Kings finished 3rd last year. I didn't mention them yet either. So that's the reason why I'm a little hesitant with playing this win total over for the Utah Jazz. But it does feel like Portland's not going to win 33 games this year. I do not wholeheartedly don't believe that. San Antonio, I think, is still going to struggle in Victor Wembanyama's first year as well. But can they win 22 games? I think they potentially could. And I do think that the Houston Rockets are going to be a lot more competitive. They only won 22 games and lost 60 last year. So it's not a lot of wiggle room for teams that are going to improve or at least get back to where they were last year. There's a lot of mediocrity in the Western Conference last year when you think about teams that finished from anywhere from 10th, which were the Pelicans, who had 42 wins, all the way until you think about the 4th seed, which was the Phoenix Suns that won 45 games. So we're talking about 3 games literally separating teams by 6 spots, right? So, and I think we could kind of see that again, especially, if we can. Injuries are a part of the game. Players are going to get hurt. You're going to have some players out longer than other players, and that is going to impact the standards, which is what makes it so difficult in my eyes, to play these win totals over. So while I do feel, I like this Jazz team and I do want to back them in certain spots because they'll be dogs. This Jazz team will be dogs throughout the season, especially with a win total just sitting at 35.5. They also, last thing I want to mention, they also have the second easiest schedule. So that tells me they don't have a lot of back-to-backs. And I just think that this roster is a roster where they're going to be extremely competitive with each other. You go back and kind of look at, who they've played so far. This team has been able to score the ball in the preseason. They still have, a lot of talent on this team. John Collins, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, Jordan Clarkson, Tyler Horton-Tucker, Kelly Olynyk is still on this team. I didn't even mention Fontecchio, that's his name. Fontecchio played FIBA ball over the summer. And I like Obagi off the bench. Chris Dunn, I think may get a actual contract. Colin Sexton name I didn't mention. Like, this team to me has a lot of talent. And then of course I mentioned Keontae George, potential. I think, you know what, I'm not gonna say anything too crazy, but Keontae George, I think, is gonna be a problem in the league. for a long time to come. Like I said, he is 19 and he's raw, so we'll give him a couple years to develop. But I think that Danny Ainge is definitely trending in the right direction with this team for sure. And I really don't have anything bad I want to say about this Utah Jazz team. So those are my thoughts. Not playing anything, but I will be looking to back them, especially as a home dog. As a home dog. Matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Let's see how good this team was last year. Last year as a home dog, they actually finished 9-5 straight up. So they won 9 of the games out of the 14 when they were actually home dogs. That's 64%. And they finished 11-3 against the spread. 78.6% of the times this team actually won the game. Covered the spread, and 9 times out of 14 they actually won the game overall. So this will be a team that I want to get behind. I'm definitely going to find some spots to kind of back them in that spot. And that's what I got for you guys as far as the Utah Jazz. Anybody got any thoughts? Definitely let me know. I'll check the YouTube comment section. But a lot of people probably not even capping the Jazz. Y'all know I'm a little crazy when it comes to the NBA. So I'm trying to extract value however I can. And I think we see some. I think I see some with this Utah Jazz team. So hit the like button for me if you guys can. And definitely send me a request if anybody got anything. Share the show as well. Tomorrow I will be breaking down the 2 more sorry teams that one of them I'm actually high on, the Orlando Magic and the Portland Trail Blazers. That'll be up for discussion tomorrow. But I don't see any YouTube comments. I don't see anybody looking like they're about to send a request. So maybe most people are just, kind of tuning in to, to hear my thoughts and kind of get caught up, which is totally fine as well. We do have some preseason action today. I didn't play anything quite yet. I will tell you guys, NBA preseason, I talked about this earlier when I did a show with Dream, but NBA preseason is really just about information. It's all about information. You need to know, who's playing, who's not playing, how many minutes they're going to be playing. So if you're not willing to dig and do that work, then it's going to be hard to hit in the preseason. I want to say 3 I gave out. The Clippers absolute no-show in the first quarter yesterday. It was absolutely embarrassing against the Denver Nuggets team that had no starters in the game and a bunch of third-string guys that got cut today. Actually kept that game actually tied it at the end of the first quarter, but we did catch the first half. And tonight we got 4 preseason games as well. So I will be firing off some plays, potentially on Twitter, but definitely, over on my YouTube group. If you guys are looking for that link, it is over on YouTube. It's $5.99 a month to get access to all my plays. You make your money back in probably first day. But just a token of appreciation. I appreciate everybody for rocking with me, man. Tomorrow, probably the same time, like I said, I'll be talking about the Orlando Magic and the Portland Trail Blazers, Mr. Scoot Henderson, Mr. Paulo Banchero and the gang there. Appreciate everybody for tapping in with me. Hit the like button for me on your way out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.